Good morning, Unity of Bremerton.
Good morning.
Happy Easter to everyone.
Happy Easter.
We're going to have a wonderful, intriguing, provocative message this morning.
Oh, yay.
So it's like gold digging, trying to find the music. So we'll do the best we can, combine the two. Let us know if that's loud enough. I'm going to sing something by Sam Cooke this morning. Good morning. So people get ready. There's a train coming. You don't need no ticket. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel humming. Don't need no ticket. Just get on board. So people get ready. There's a train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key. There's hope for them. There's room for all. Most love the most. So people get ready. There's a train coming. You don't need no ticket. You just get on board. All you need is faith. The diesel's coming. Don't need no ticket. Just get on board. On the keyboards we have Mr. Keys, of course. So sing that first stanza with me, people get ready. People get ready. There's a train coming. You don't need no ticket. Just get on board. All you need? All you need is faith. The diesel's coming. Don't need no ticket. Just get on board. 3 times. You don't need no ticket. Just get on board. One more time. You don't need no ticket. Just get on board. I'm gonna take you all with me. Yes.
So, you have this street?
Do you know the song right now? Or is it?
Let's have a platform person.
Oh, that's one person.
If I had money, I'd get voice lessons so I could sing with her. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Nora.
And I know we have some visitors. Mercedes' husband. Would you tell me your name again?
Dumbe.
Dumbe Emmanuel. She likes me to be called Emmanuel.
Emmanuel.
My name is Dumbe.
TMI.
Well, we're glad you're here. Did you get your red card?
Yes.
Okay. And then Michael's wife? Did you?
Cheryl.
And you got your red heart?
I didn't bring it.
She's been
Oh, you have one. Okay. Well, we'll tell more about that soon. And so I want to acknowledge the people that make today happen. You know, our wonderful opening singer, Mercedes Nicole, our wonderful guest speaker, Michael Bogar, and our board member of the week is Mary Ellen. Ushers are Mary Ellen and Cindy. Marilyn is our chaplain, and Mary Ellen and Ann are doing hospitality, and they would appreciate it if we all help clean up, because that's what we do, clean up after ourselves. And I'm your wonderful platform person, Nora. So now we have another song, a heart song.
Nothing better than heart songs, amen. So you all know this song, so you're gonna help me sing it, and if you can stand, why don't you stand? If you feel good this morning, stand on up. And we'll sing,
Tanya. Glad to see you. Oh, Melody. She's got way too big. And Barbara, it's nice to see you too. If you are new today at Unity of Bremerton, we welcome you in the spirit of love. We want you to know, no matter where you are on your journey of faith, you are always welcomed here. We know that the world is a better place when we are willing to share our hearts. We give you the heart as a symbol of the steadfast spirit that lives within each of us, and we ask you to carry this symbol as a member of this Red Heart Fellowship. Let it be a reminder that the love of God is always with you to share your heart wherever you go. The red heart is a symbol of the fellowship in the world, can spread one heart at a time. Let's start the movement here. And for those of you who are visiting today, we encourage you to come back many, many times. Mr. Keys.
Thank you.
He told me today how much he loved being here, so I told him he didn't need to be here playing music to
That's
come,
right.
that he could just come and relax and listen.
There you go.
And so this is the personal invitation for you to come back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now for our Unity happenings. Most of your announcements are in your bulletin. Our speaker today is Michael Bogar on the Hindu Bhagavad Gita on depression. And our musician Mercedes and Mr. Keys. Upcoming events are on Tuesday, the 3rd, is Suzanne Auclair's New Moon Circle Spiritual Star Talks. Includes a mini reading. And there's a sign-up sheet with more information in the fellowship hall. Next week, on the 8th, our speaker will be Reverend Joanna Gabriel, and Jamie and Sally McAllister are the musicians. And on April 14th, that's a Saturday, is our Unity of Bremerton's men's group, and the topic is advanced meditation. And breakfast is included, so there's a sign-up sheet with that for reservations, so that they'll can plan how much food to bring. And then on the 15th, our speaker is going to be Reverend Karen Hamilton with the musician Stephanie Johnson. And I'd like to remind you that after service, Marilyn will be available to do praying with people in the back corner over here. Okay, Marilyn?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we would like to remind you that we are live streaming our service. We ask that you keep your conversation down because it will be picked up, especially during the candle lighting and paper burning. Also, please be sure your cell phones are off or on vibrate. We want to remind everyone that prayer request forms are available in the pocket on the back of the seats, and you can put them in the prayer box up here in the front, or put them in the offertory bag and they will be passed around as advertised. No, your prayer requests won't be passed around. The bags will be passed around. The chaplains are also available to pray with you after service on Sundays. Please stop by the table in the fellowship hall. There are all kinds of sign-up sheets that we have for events that are coming up. There's also an upcoming plans for a craft fair, and we're hoping to get contributions, or if you'd like to participate with helping to put that event on. And then, of course, we've already mentioned the men's group in April, and the men's group breakfast and the astrology. So our next family fun night will be Saturday, April 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. Anyone interested in this event, please sign up on the sign-up sheet in the fellowship area. Bring your favorite cards, dice, or board game and some snacks to share, and let's have some fun. And it is fun. I've been the last couple. The board will continue to update you weekly. If you have any questions or concerns, please see a board member. Thank you.
And I'd like to remind everybody about Grandpa Don's services on Saturday the 21st at 1 p.m. at the DAV on Burwell, near Naval. So now we're going to light the Christ candle, which represents the Christ light within each of us, and we will read our mission statement together. So we'll say our invocation together.
We are a welcoming community, supporting our mutual quest for spiritual truth.
And our invocation.
There is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life. God, good, omnipotent.
So now it's time to take a brief moment and for handshakes and hugs. And remember that we will have fellowship afterwards, so longer conversations. We'd like you to hold those off till then.
How are you? Good. And your printer's all okay?
They are now, yeah. Well, there was two old cookies. Of course.
We have the two.
Good morning.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Happy Easter!
Oh, the sound of laughter. There's no music quite that sweet. It's hearing people laughing and greeting each other with that. So we're going to sing It Is Well with My Soul. Got a lot of air for this one. How many of you know this song? Huh? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think of who wrote it. You know?
I will Google that.
Okay.
I'm really bad at it. So, when I was looking at Reverend Bogart's sermon, I was trying to find something, trying to see where he's going, where his Spirit's leading him to go. And this is a song that whenever you're going through darkness, or trials, you want to remember this and affirm that it is well with your soul. When peace like a river attends my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast told me to up here, but I just got wrapped up in that song. And that's just fine. Today's daily word is Easter. The eternal light of Easter morning lifts my spirits to new heights. I am a spiritual being engaged in a human experience. As such, my individual spirit is resurrected when I use faith and forgiveness to dissolve negative energies and attitudes that have been slowing me on my spiritual path. I am the light, and the kingdom of God is within. I am the light, and the kingdom of God is within. Recognizing this, I dissolve thoughts in consciousness that would deny my worthiness for personal resurrection. I am a whole and perfect expression of infinite spirit here in human form to create, choice by choice, the new dimension of consciousness that Jesus demonstrates through his Easter manifestation. As it is for me, so it is for the world. I affirm that the energy of resurrection is lifting all people to new dimensions of love, appreciating deeply the true identity, the true unity of life. From John 20, verse 17, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Today, the eternal light of Easter morning lifts my spirit to new heights. God bless us. That was so beautiful. I got the joy, 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 joy. Where? Down in my heart. So you can't hear. If you listen to what she just said, you know you have it in there. So let's sing that together. And of course, if you want to stand, you can, but you don't have to. No pressure. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart to stay. I've got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I've got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart to stay. My favorite part. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. Yeah. I am happy. Sometimes people at work say, why are you so happy? I'm like, am I supposed to be mean? Grouchy? Like, what's your problem? Oh my gosh. Can we be happy? Can a girl be happy? So which one are we doing? Oh, and I forgot to Google before. Google. I'm gonna Google everybody who sings the song. So funny because when you sing jazz, you, as an African American baby, a little girl grew up in the church singing gospel, of course, Southern gospel, and then you get called and you find your voice fits, another genre, and I sing jazz, and it's like you never get up in front of the podium and you don't know the song, the person you're gonna sing. So I have to retrain myself because in church I'm just happy. So I don't know who sang this song, so we're gonna sing "Walk with Me." Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. While I'm on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to walk with me and hold my hand, Lord, hold my hand, hold my hand, Lord, hold my hand, while I'm on this tedious journey. I want Jesus to hold my hand and be my friend, Lord, be my friend, be my friend, Lord, be my friend, while I'm on this tedious journey. I want Jesus to be my friend. So walk with me, Lord, walk with me, Lord, walk with me, while I'm on this tedious journey. I want Jesus to walk with me. While I'm on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to walk with me, to walk with me, to walk with me. God bless you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Now let's give a big welcome to Michael Bogar.
Hey, Mark, before we start, could you go back to those lyrics on It Is Well With My Soul? I wasn't asking to put you on the spot. It's just the background of that song I remember. I just didn't remember the guy's name. It's Horatio Spafford, thanks to Google. Google is God.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's for sure. I could
This song was written, what's that? Oh,
We need to move that up.
move what up?
Much higher.
Google and Mark are God. So this song has a very interesting story behind it on this topic that we're looking at today, the Bhagavad Gita and depression. Horatio Spafford in the 19th century wrote this song. He lost his 2-year-old son to illness, and then the Great Chicago Fire burned down his lawyer office, and he basically lost his business. And he sent his wife and 4 daughters on a trip to Europe. They were to go ahead, he would come later. And the ship sank, and he lost 4 daughters. And his wife alone survived. So after this sort of Jobian litany of tragedies, he sat down in a state of just, well, you can imagine, and wrote this song, which is a pretty amazing testimony to where he was rooted in this faith in the Christ in the midst of all this loss. So it's a pretty intense song. So with that background, we can go ahead and go to the slides now if you would. What I've discovered over the last 20-some years with the New Thought movement, unity, religious science, etc., is that we don't do depression well. We don't do negative emotions well. About longer than I want to think back, 20 years ago, when I first started teaching with the Holmes Institute, the ministerial school for religious science, they asked me to do a class on introduction to philosophy and to include emotions in the discussion of philosophy. So I was pretty new to the New Thought movement, and I remember asking this class full of students, about 12 ministerial students, how many of them had experienced depression? And I'll never forget that the heads all went down. I thought we were going to pray for a minute. But they just didn't want to make eye contact. And I was a little bit shocked. I said, so nobody here has experienced depression. And finally, after a very uncomfortable few seconds of silence, and I thought, I'm just going to let this silence hang here. It's a good thing to do at times. One woman slipped her hand up like a puppet from behind the desk. And you can see it sort of slowly raising, but her head was still down. She raised her hand, and some others looked over at her, and then another one went up. And then another one went up. And finally, one of the women in the class looked up and said, I'm on Prozac right now.
Oh, jeez.
And then somebody else said, I'm on Zoloft. And then the conversation started. And we talked about depression. One of the things, and I've shared this with you the times I've been here before, that our spirituality has to do is to be big enough to encompass it all. Right? We say it's all God, but I think some of us have little footnotes. Except for this. And this. This is not God. This is ego. This is ego. This is ego. So what does that do in the relationship, or with the relationship between God and ego when you say that? It's all God, but not this, it's ego.
Point for ego.
Well, it's a point for ego, but what does it say? About it's all God. It's not all God. So let's say that from now on. It's all God except my ego. Unless, of course, your ego is part of God as well. So entertain that possibility as a new thought. So I'm kind of predicating what I'm sharing this morning on that idea that if it's all God, then each of us is a tiny spark of God. And the great I am, each of us is a little... I'll say it again. The great I am, each of us is a little I am. Each of us is a little ego from the infinite ego. And that I'm suggesting, and this is in all the different New Thought writers and many other writers, that we are here on this earth in order to evolve or to develop that little I am ego spark that each of us is into a divine godling, as C.S. Lewis calls it. So each of us is becoming a godling. But the godling has to develop from that little seed into its infinite expression as each of us is an individual. Let's entertain that possibility.
Now, this is essentially what Jesus said and says all through the New Testament, as well as many other spiritual teachers. In the Gospel of Mark, a little quoted passage, Jesus said, this is what the kingdom of God is like. So he's using an analogy here. He said, a farmer scatters seed on the ground. You got that image in mind? Mm-hmm. Night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up, the seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. Right? You don't know how the seed grows. You put it in the ground, it grows. All by itself, what produces grain?
Seed.
The soil. There's something magic in the soil itself that makes that tiny little seed pop open, disintegrate, rot essentially, and put its roots down, as we see in these beautiful trees up here, and then it grows. He said all by itself, the soil produces grain, and notice the progression, the process. First the stalk, then the head, then the full kernel in the head. As soon as the grain is ripe, what? You reap the harvest. But you see the different stages. It goes from that little tiny seed pod, I call it the original iPod, the ego pod, that each of us is. Each of us is that little seed. We come into this world biologically almost indistinguishable from each other, right? You look at babies, yours is the best, but they all look kind of the same. And they don't have much, I think each one has its character, its nascent character, there's no question, but that character has to grow, it has to develop. Mm-hmm. So, if that's the way it is, and if this is the way God has created this world, then part of what has to happen to each of us, just as with the seed, is that we have to do what in order to grow? Die. We have to die. We have to fall apart. How many times have you fallen apart in your life? How many of you are in a state of falling apart right now? If you're over 50, you are. I am. John chapter 12, and this is a very resurrection, Easter kind of thing. Jesus said the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Well, that's good news, right? We all want to be glorified.
That's right.
It is an absolute truth, I tell you, that unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, in other words, it must be depressed. You understand? It must be pressed down into the soil in order for that seed to die, fall apart, and grow up. So there's a downward trajectory and an upward trajectory. And I think a lot of times in our New Thought churches, what we focus on primarily, if not exclusively, is the upward trajectory. Does that make sense? We're always trying to move up. But what I'm trying to want to remind us on this Easter Sunday is that not only are we moving up in resurrection, we are also going down in death. And we're experiencing both simultaneously. But according to this verse in John, the ultimate goal is what?
To die.
Well, that's not the ultimate goal.
To resurrect.
Well, what in John? What's the ultimate goal? That first sentence. Glory. Can I hear a hallelujah?
Hallelujah.
Glory. We're moving to glory. That's the train we're getting on. The train we're on. But the movement to glory is oftentimes filled with experiences of when it's not well with my soul. When I have lost someone or something, or I'm in a state of health disrepair. Things aren't going well. Can we make room in our spiritual paradigm for those moments of depression into the soil that makes the seed grow as part of the God process? That's the question. Now, we're going to come back to the cross in a minute. I want to refer to Robert's amazing work here. I talked to him about it before the service and asked him what it meant, and he said he wasn't sure until he reflected on it. And I'll share with you what he said. But in the process of getting back to the Christian resurrection idea, let's look at the Hindu Bhagavad Gita to see that the story of death precedes life, depression precedes expression. Let's look at this story. How many of you, out of curiosity, have read the Bhagavad Gita? Anybody? Okay. It's a little tiny slice from a great Indian epic. It might be likened to our Bible. This is a condensed version of the Hindu Mahabharata. If you live in India, you know this well. In fact, there's actually 10 volumes. This is a condensed 2-volume version. And in fact, in India, if you live in India, remember how they used to play the Wizard of Oz every year in America? And if you're, they still do it?
Still do it.
You can't wait, right, to get there. Well, in India, they do the Mahabharata. There's 90-some episodes of the Mahabharata soap opera in India. And in this great work, this great epic of India, one tiny little narrow slice of it is the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita is in the midst of this great epic that talks about war and love and marriage and death and life and births and all, politics and everything is in this great set of books. And the Bhagavad Gita is slipped right in the middle of it. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we have one of the key characters in this Hindu soap opera, and his name is Arjuna. He's the general, who here looks like he has an Excedrin headache standing there. And in the story, you have to understand there's a whole bunch of stuff that's preceded this. He's become a great hero. He is the rock star in India. He is Dwight D. Eisenhower, Petraeus. Put them all together, he is that person. He's Hercules in Greek mythology. He is the most amazing warrior in India of his time. So he's in the midst of a great battle to basically save the culture and the country, a kind of Star Wars, right? Light versus dark thing. And he's in the middle of this battle. He goes out into the middle of the battlefield. Krishna is his charioteer, driving his chariot. And that's Krishna down there with the blue, divine face. The reason the face is blue is the color of the sky, which is divinity. But Arjuna doesn't really know that Krishna is who he is. But in the middle of the battlefield, he stops as he looks on the other side at the enemy, and he sees cousins, he sees brothers. It's a great civil war. He sees trainers who helped him in his growing up years, but they've become corrupted. But he says, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, he falls on his face in the chariot, stands up with his face in his hands, and he says to Krishna, I can't do it. I give up. This is too hard. He suffers what in this culture we might call a midlife crisis. How many of you have had a midlife crisis? How many of you had dozens of midlife crises? I told somebody when I was 20, I said, I think I've already had 4 midlife crises. In my teenage years, I had one pretty much every day. So Arjuna is in the middle of this great depression in the middle of his life. Carl Jung said that about the age of 35 to 45, most of us go through a super crisis. And he doesn't want to do what he's supposed to do, which is go on with his life. So Krishna begins to teach him. Krishna says something in about 10 chapters to begin with. Arjuna, you must realize it is all God moving you to a higher reality. That's the basic summary of the lesson. In other words, even when you are in the midst of one of these despairing midlife crises, and you're depressed, it is not well with your soul, you feel like giving up, you don't even know if you believe in God anymore. Have any of you ever been an atheist in the middle of... All right, thank you for one honest answer. Anybody want to put a pinky up, a little atheist? Most of us have those moments where we're not even sure if this stuff is true. What if this is all part of the God process? You understand? What if it's all part of the God process? Krishna suggests that it is. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives Arjuna, you can see him in his chariot before this manifestation of Krishna as God in chapter 11. But in the first 10 verses, Krishna instructs Arjuna to try to bring him out of or through this depression. I won't say out of, but through this depression. Because the purpose of depression in the Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of depression in all the great literature of religious literature and mythology, the purpose of depression is to make the seed grow. Which way?
Up.
Down.
Oh.
You got to root.
Oh, that's right.
Root into the dark, deep soil of soul before you have what it takes to start to move that stalk up into the light and to blow that lotus blossom before the sun. The lotus blossom is the symbol in India. You see it everywhere. Guru's sitting on it, the God's sitting on it. The lotus is a symbol of a seed in a pond that drops into the muck at the bottom of the pond. And then it puts its roots down. This is very Hindu. And it puts the roots down in the dark. And oftentimes those losses, those things that you're counting on that go away. Anybody been betrayed? Ever been betrayed by someone? This is part of it. Just imagine if we started to look at these experiences that we go through that are not pleasant as part of the process of spiritual growth as much as the moving up. This is what's going on in the Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna reveals himself to Arjuna, after Arjuna is ready for the full revelation of its all God, you get that in that image up there? This is the idea that Krishna says, now you can see it's all God. This is from Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, where Krishna, as God, as Vishnu, says, I am time. I am the Atman, or the soul, seated in the hearts of how many creatures? All creatures. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. I am Kandarpa, the god of love. I am Yama, the lord of death. I am the wielder of weapons. I am Brahma, the creator, whose manifold faces turn everywhere. I am the spiritual science of the Atman, and I am the ultimate truth. Now this is what Arjuna needs in the midst of his despair and depression, is to come to the realization. And what's the word realization mean? What's the core piece of that word? Real. When things realize. It's one thing to have a theory of reality. It's another to have a grasp of reality. It's real that this process of going through the darkness into the depths of the soil and putting the roots down is just as much of the realization as moving up into the light. This is what's being said in the Bhagavad Gita. We see it in the three great gods of India, the triumvirate it's called. You've got Brahma on the left there, the four faces of God looking to the four corners of the universe, the great creator God. Each of us is created, yes?
Yes.
And in the other second great God in the Hindu Trinity, there is Vishnu, the preserver. This is the God who comes and gives light and life and restoration and helps people through their trials and brings them into great prosperity. This is a wonderful God. Yes? Yes. But there is also Shiva, the destroyer. Shiva is the god in India, or the Indians recognize that part of life is, we're not just created, we're not just preserved and succeeding, we are also dying. And Shiva is very clearly the god who comes in order to bring new life through death, or through the old life moving away. We call this depression. We call it fear. We call it panic. We have many different names for it. But in India, there's a place for those experiences, as well as us being created and being preserved and succeeding. So there's room for it. In India, they have, how many of you have seen this Naharaja image of Shiva? How many, just out of curiosity, anybody seen this before? This is one of the preeminent images in India. And what you have here is Shiva, the destroyer, dancing. And he has his foot on a little dwarf down there at the bottom, in between two, can you see those on each side? Those monsters. Do you ever feel like that? Mm-hmm. Like you're dwarfed, you're being stomped down into depressed into the soil, and you're surrounded by dragons, and you're saying, I'm feeling terrified and really depressed. In India, there is room for this, because this is part of the dance of Shiva. Shiva the destroyer is doing away with the old self, that self that's done. You understand? It's done. Each of us goes through experiences in our life that bring us happiness and joy and fulfillment. But there's a time when each of those experiences, they're done. They're over. They pass in order to make room for the next thing. So Shiva in this circle is dancing. What do you see on the edges of this circle? What do you think those little... That's fire. It's a clock, essentially, where every second is burned away. Each tick of the clock burns away what was, and it moves into what is. So the idea here is to let go in this circle of life of what was. And this is the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna, if you attach to anything, you're going to eventually be in a state of despair and depression, because in this world all things pass away, in order that the new may come. Glory, Can you say it with me? Glory. So glory is the goal. The New Thought movement is right in its emphasis on glory. But the danger is that sometimes we only talk about glory, so we don't realize that when the unglorious is happening, it's also part of the God process. So here Shiva is dancing. He's got one foot on the ground, stomping the ego into depression so it will go away. But where's the other foot? It's on the way. I mean, you ever remember Jackie Gleason, the old Jackie Gleason shows where he's going?
Yeah.
Right? This is what's going on here. Shiva is saying, it's not just that I'm pushing the old into the ground. We're moving. We're moving into glory. We're going to the next thing, but this has got to stay behind. This is done. But I like it. I'm not done with it. Well, yes, you are. You're done with it because something more amazing is coming. But I've been diagnosed with cancer. Well, if it's all God, then you're moving even through that experience into something glorious. Now, I'm not telling people that they have to believe this, but this is the basic idea in Hinduism and Christianity and all the great religions. We're moving forward into glory through these things. And Krishna or God or Christ is teaching trust. Period. Trust. Yeah, but. You ever do that? I trust. Yeah, but. I want more information about this. Can't give you any more. There's no more to give. Trust. I am crushing the oppressor in order to make you anew. But it doesn't feel like the oppressor. Well, it doesn't feel like the oppressor, but it is. This old thing is going away, so something new may come. And here's an image from Christian. Let me go back. Now watch the screen. From Christian iconography, Satan is the thing being crushed. Satan is that part of our lives that needs to go away. You find it also in this image of the cross where the serpent is being crushed. This is from the book of Genesis. Same imagery. You understand? The foot on the old. You have it in Kali. We don't have time to talk about this idea this morning. But in the Bhagavad Gita and Hinduism in general, Kali is this goddess who is standing on whom? Do you recognize who's under her foot? Shiva. Even death must be destroyed. Thank God. Because we're moving to glory. So the beautiful thing here is that Kali is essentially this goddess who is the goddess of babies and children and infancy. And she is saying, I'm moving you into infancy, and even the great god Shiva, the god of death, has to die that you might be reborn. And in the Christian message, the idea of the crucifixion and resurrection is carried in this Shiva image, that on the cross, this bloody, horrific image is depression. And it is part of the spiritual process. What do you see to the right of the cross in this image? You see the resurrected Christ. Because we're moving to glory. Can you say it with me like you believe it? We're moving to glory. And in the meantime, we're moving through difficult experiences. Yes?
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes.
I talked to Robert before the service started. And I asked him, he's back here. Can I share this? Thank you. I asked him what was going through his mind as he created this cross with this wire on it. And he said, I don't really know. He says, let me interpret it. So we walked up here and he said, I see this chicken wire as things being interconnected. All things being interconnected. Isn't that beautiful? And there's this inglorious kind of crucifix with nails driven into this connectedness. Isn't that beautiful? You ever feel like this? Like somehow I'm trusting, I'm relying that it's all connected, but I feel like I'm nailed to a cross. And yet it's all connected. This is brilliant. You were inspired. He won't even smile.
Smiling, trust me.
It is?
Yes,
Good.
it is.
This is brilliant because this is the essential Easter message. Where's the Christ? Not on the cross. Christ has moved to glory.
Glory.
Christ has moved to glory. But to get to glory, There was all this jumble of this life where at times most of us find ourselves at times going, I don't see how it's connected. Horatio Spafford could not see how the loss of his 2-year-old son was connected to glory. How the burning down of his business and the loss of his income was connected to glory. How losing 4 precious daughters, imagine that, was somehow connected to glory. And when he penned that hymn, it is well with my soul. Not at the physical level was it well, but he was trusting that somehow in this jumble, this intertwined, at times it seems like messy life, that there is this glorious connection where the infinite, it is all I am, is bringing each of us little I ams together in what the Hindus call dharma. We get our word adhere from the Hindu word dharma. You can see the DHR in adhere, dharma. So that in Christ, in the resurrection message, every bit of your life, every bit of my life, emotions, high emotions, low emotions, experiences, it all adheres through faith. Through faith. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does.
So, let's just take a moment and pray together if you'd like to join me. I invite you to take a deep breath. Infinite Christ field. Loving Christ presence. Fill this room and fill the hearts of every single one of us in this room with your presence, so that it is well with our souls, no matter what. And I'm the first to confess that at times I go out of that field. And I look around at things, and I look in the mirror and go, holy crap, who is that? Graciously give us faith to trust. Give us that joy that we sang about so beautifully today with Mercedes' song that there's joy, joy, joy down in my heart. Let that joy be in the middle, that joy be the fire that burns in the middle of anything that's going on around us, as we see that we are connected to the infinite through this seed process of development. And so it is. Blessings on you on this glorious Easter, and that's all.
I don't know about you, but I feel so deeply moved, so profoundly moved. And thank you for taking that song. I just finding out the author and the story, but just incorporating that because I'm so moved. You feel the Spirit of God just moving. There's tears in my eyes because it's about Jesus said that all things work together for them that love Him. All things work together. And when I saw that cross up there, I was saying, who did this? It's so beautiful. And I know they're going to have a ceremony and put flowers on it, but it's just like, I'm so deeply touched. Thank you so much. And we all have to die, right? So that we can be glorified, so we can be a better self, a better person. Die to self, because self is just greedy. So there's a song by Leon Bridges, I learned real fast. Leon Bridges talked about the watery grave, going to be baptized and dying to self in the watery grave. And he talked about not feeling good enough, in this dark place, but then realizing all you have to do is go to that. And then when it's sing River, it's called River. In our church, we serve breakfast to those who are unsheltered and homeless. And sometimes we say, stay for the service. You can come for breakfast, but stay for the service and come upstairs. And they don't feel worthy to do that. And we have to let them see that we are all one. We are worthy. They are worthy. Just, I'm so touched. Been traveling these wide roads for so long. My heart's been far from you. 10,000 miles gone. Oh, I wanna come and give you every part of me. Too many mistakes I have made, and my lips are unclean. In my darkness I remembered Mama's words reoccurred to me. Surrender to the good Lord and He'll wipe your slate clean. Take me to the river, 'cause I want to go. Oh, take me to the river, 'cause I want to know. I want to know. Dip me in the smooth water. I'm going like a man with many crimes. Come up for air. My mistakes flow down the Jordan. Oh, I wanna come and give you every part of me. Too many mistakes I have made, and my lips are unclean. Take me to the river, 'cause I want to go. Oh, take me to the river, 'cause I want to know. I wanna know Him. Wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I wanna know, wanna know, wanna know. I wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I wanna know, wanna know, wanna know. Ooh, oh, take me to the river, 'cause I want to go. Ooh, take me to the river, 'cause I want to know. Please let me know, 'cause I want to go. Wanna go, wanna go. Thank you.
So now it's time for our offering, and we normally do the candle lighting starting then, but we are going to wait till after the offering to start the candle lighting. As you are preparing your tithes and love offerings today, think about how blessed you are, and as you are writing your check or giving your gift, send your blessings out.
I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed.
join us? We can say this together.
I give willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude.
And when you come up to light your candle, we have flowers to be added to the cross, and then we have our burning bowl where you can, if you want to release something.
Something bright.
Now it's time to recognize anybody with April birthdays. Would you please stand up? Robert, can you come on in a little bit?
Come on, Robert.
Come on, Robert.
Robert,
His
Cindy.
birthday is on Tuesday.
Yes. And Morris's birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Buddy. Happy birthday to you. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you now.
Now can you ask everybody how old they are?
39.
That's what you said 10 years ago. Okay, now it's time for our Food for Life bag and our good news. Is there anybody that would like to take our Food for Life back home?
No.
I can do that. And now for the good news. Does anybody, Cindy?
Well, the good news is that our cross has gone from something barren and plain to something absolutely beautiful.
Yes. You have good news? Yes.
After 3 months, I finally got a job.
What other good news?
Oh,
Oh, duh, hello. I meant to have you insert a picture, but yes, we've been blessed with our 7th grandchild this week. Little Maya made her appearance on Thursday.
I wish I could get that many grandkids. Okay, Jamie.
we had a great talk today.
Amen.
Yes.
Oh, I got a new windshield.
Tracy, do you have some good news? You don't want to share that?
I had to go see a specialist this week, and everything turned out fine. I don't want to go there, but I had to weigh in when I go see the specialist. I'm down another 5.
That prompted me to go buy 3 new cookbooks. And I am going to get all my favorite recipes, put them in my own book, and I am going to title it, I Only Have a Kitchen Because It Came with the House. Recipes for those that are allergic to cooking.
I love it. It's a great time.
Okay, now I'd like to remind you that Marilyn will be available in the back for praying with anybody, and if you have something you just want to say thank you God to with her, and or pray with that you have special needs for. Marilyn is in purple. She's the average size person there. And I am so glad to see that everybody got the memo for the color of the day. So now we can stand up and sing our peace song.
Who said pink was a color?
Purple.
Pink, purple, it's all. Yeah.
Purple's a great.
Grandmother.
Derivative. Purple. There you go.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with thee. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us.